Lepore, another thing with the Leafs, okay. I mean, we know they're one of the highest scoring teams in the league. I was comparing them to the Florida Panthers. Very similar teams. Like if they met in a playoff series, it would be an absolute track meet and probably the most entertaining playoff series we've ever seen. Honestly, it
Yeah,
could be right up there just
yeah.
based on the styles they play. They're not that great defensively, either team. But do you think the Leafs style this, you know, I don't want to call it a run and gun style because they want to play good defensive hockey and Sheldon Keefe preaches this. And I think that their team defense and their structure has kind of taken a, people haven't really given it the respect it deserves because the goaltending has been so bad. And I think that's why the Leafs defensive numbers look worse than they actually are. But do you think the
Yeah.
style the Leafs play can actually work come playoff time?
I'm hesitating to say it comes down to one thing. We already pointed out and questioned what their record would be, where they would be in the standings and the overall NHL standings had they been getting average goaltending all season. Give us the 915 or 918, whatever it is. It comes down to that. It really and truly comes down to that. If the Leafs get average goaltending, save a little over 9 out of 10 shots, they'll be tough to beat. But it's a question. And is Jack Campbell going to be able to do that? Well, who knows? Maybe he's not even going to be the guy the way this season's going and the craziness we've had in between the pipes. But of course, I'm worried about it. I am. Based on their style, they can win on their style. They can. Everyone points to the goals they give up, the chances they give up. It goes both ways. If you give up, what's more important is the differential you have in scoring chances and goals. But the problem with the Leafs lies with, is our goalie going to be so bad that it doesn't matter that we're heavily outchancing the other team? So is it a style question? No, like a high flying offensive team can win the Stanley Cup. We saw the Penguins do it as an example, and they had defensemen you could barely name, but it's just a matter of getting the save when you need it. And will the Leafs goalie be able to make that save when they need it, or just not lose the game for them altogether? That's the question. And I'm worried about it because, if I'm being perfectly honest, I'm not really worried about anything else. I'm not. People could say, well, are Matthews and Marner going to perform? I hate all that talk. And I'm not even talking about the Leafs, just about players in general. The reason why certain players have poor playoff numbers compared to their regular season is because there's not enough of a sample. If Austin Matthews played 100 playoff games, he's not going to have like 14 goals. It's not going to be that different from his paces in regular seasons. Same thing goes. People always talk about in football. A quarterback has 2 or 3 bad playoff games, and he can't get it done in the playoffs. No, it's a sample size of like 2 or 3 games. It's not because he just walks out there and is not good, because it's a playoff game and all this pressure gets to him. There's pressure all the time. There's pressure every week, every game. So I'm not going to say there aren't guys who elevate in the playoffs when the chips are in. They're able to really step up. But I'm not afraid of Matthews and Marner performing. I think the D's been good. Like, I think this D top to bottom is a solid D. And this team is 8-1-1 since they acquired Giordano. Keefe was not fucking lying when he said what was the exact term he said? He's filled a lot of holes or something.
Yeah,
He said like that.
I still got it right here, Lepore. He said it's no coincidence that this is early on, that in the 3 games that he's been here, those are the fewest chances we've given up. And then he
Yeah.
also mentioned he loves the way that everything is slotted now, shift after shift. We're killing plays before they develop.
Yeah. So I'm not worried about the D. I'm not worried about the Leafs getting outchanced because their D is getting bolted all the time. It's just the goaltending. Are we going to get average goaltending? And then as you go deeper, well, maybe you need better than average goaltending. And that's going to be the Achilles heel. Like, I hate to use that kind of terminology because it's so cliche, but it's the only talking point for me. If someone came to me and said the Leafs are going to get solid goaltending in the playoffs, I'd be like, watch the fuck out. Because like, how's anyone going to beat them? I'll say that, but that's going to be what it comes down to. If no, the Leafs aren't going to play anyone that's going to heavily outchance them. And we're going to look at the meters on Money Puck and Natural Stat Trick and be like, oh, wow, the Leafs got dusted. That's not going to happen. They're too talented up front. They're too solid defensively. They're a well-structured team. They have forwards who are very good defensively. This is a team that always has the puck in the other team's end. This is a team that's one of the best power plays ever. It's just going to come down to the goaltending. That's it. That's all that matters, man.
It might sound too simple to say it's just going to come down to the goaltending, but I completely agree with you. From top to bottom, this team is really good. This is a team that could easily win the Stanley Cup this season. I know it sounds ridiculous to say because this team hasn't won anything in the longest time, hasn't won a playoff series in 17 years. But you go down the roster, they have everything you need. They have the elite players up front. They have an elite power play. They actually have a really good penalty kill as well, something that people don't really talk about.
Like 5th in the league or something.
Right now, the Leafs are tied for 6th in penalty kill percentage. Really good PK. And again, I think the team is way better defensively than meets the eye because the goaltending has been so bad. And you can say, oh, that's because the defense sucks and they give up all these chances. Not really. They don't really give up that many chances when you compare them to some of these other teams around the league. It's just when you have the 30th ranked goaltending in terms of 5-on-5 save percentage, like it's just going to be tough.
Yeah.
Pucks are going to go in the net, and it's going to appear as if defensively this team is soft and there's issues. And again, it's not like they're a great defensive team, Lepore. It's not like there's, no issues whatsoever. Like you can talk about Justin Hall and maybe, the bottom of the depth chart on defense isn't fantastic, but go around the NHL. What team has a number 5 and 6 defenseman who's elite?
Yeah, I know. That's such a Leafs thing. We see like people, oh, Justin Hall, or like they'll name someone in the Leafs depth. And I'm like, even the Lightning, I'm sure if we dialed in on their worst players, it'd be like, yeah, they're not that good. Yeah. You know what I mean? Oh my God. Again, how they get treated differently.
At the end of the day, when you're looking at your D-core specifically in the playoffs, your top 4 guys are going to play the most minutes. The bottom 2 guys, in that 5-6 man unit are going to play, 16-ish minutes a game. It comes down to your top players. The same thing up front. I always laugh, Lepore. People love to talk about the Tampa Bay Lightning and how they won back-to-back Stanley Cups.
Oh, their third line.
Because of their third line. Give me a fucking break. Go look at the numbers. Do you know what Nikita Kucherov and Braden Point did over the last 2 playoff series? Do you know what Victor Hedman did? Did you know that Andrei Vasilevsky had a .937 save percentage in the playoffs last year? Don't give me this bullshit that they won these cups because of Barclay Goodrow and Blake Coleman. Good players, not to take anything away from them. I think they're good players. They obviously contributed. They helped the depth of that team. They did a lot of the little things. But if your best players aren't your best players, you aren't winning shit. I don't care how good your third line is. You need Matthews, you need Marner, you need Nylander and Tavares to go on an absolute heater. You need Riley to be the stud that he is. And obviously, we can talk about Muzzin, Giordano, and Brody and those guys as well. But if your best players aren't your best players, as simple as it sounds, you are not winning anything. It's not about how good your third line is and some dude winning faceoffs and grinding in the corner. Sorry to the people who think that Blake Coleman and Barclay Goodrow won the Lightning back-to-back Stanley Cups. It's just outrageous. I just really had to get that off my chest.
Yeah, it was back. I remember like the Penguins. It was, oh my God, Bonino. And like, yeah, he had a great playoff and had that big overtime winner. But no, Crosby and Malkin went bananas in the playoffs. I remember even back in the day with the Red Wings and different hockey culture back then. But everyone always talked about like Maltby and Draper. And I was like, yeah, they're nice players, but there's Yzerman and Fedorov and Lidstrom the year they picked up Robitaille.
Multiple Hall of Fame.
And Hall. Like, what are we talking about? Like, it was like total juggernaut of a team. Let's circle the guys on the third, like the checking line, as they call it. I always found that funny. And again, like I love Drapes and Maltby. I'm just saying I always found it weird. Everyone circled them. I think because what happens is the old saying, the playoffs aren't a sprint, they're a marathon. So if you play like, let's say the 20-25 games, yeah, there's going to be a game where a third liner gets a big goal or an overtime winner or makes a play. Like if we look at the Leafs last 20 to 25 games, I'm sure I know we'd find a lot of games where Mikheyev scored a shorthanded goal that won the Leafs the game, or Kerfoot made a hell of a play to set up a goal, or someone laid a big hit. It's that many games. Like, that's going to happen. You're going to need contribution throughout your lineup. But as you said, the most important thing is that your top guys go AWOL. And that's it. And it's all about timing and those guys doing well. But yeah, there's nothing more frustrating than the talks about like how like the depth guys and this and that, those guys that are playing like 7 minutes and how important they are.
It drives me insane. I think another factor in all that is just the media narrative around these games. Think about it, right? Like, for example, if you're going to the Stanley Cup final, you're playing between 20 and 25-ish games. And every game, the media narrative around the game, you can't just talk about the star players all the time. Like, how often can you talk about Nikita Kucherov getting 3 points a game or Braden Point scoring every game? At some point, these networks, right, they have to build narratives around these peripheral players, right? The guys that are flying under the radar, but that teammates love them and they win faceoffs and they're hard to play against and they kill penalties. So you always, these other narratives outside of the star players start to come to the surface as you're going through these playoff runs. And I think that's what usually happens. And that's why, you know, Barclay Goodrow and Blake Coleman were viewed in this light. And it's a reason that they got the big contracts they got in the offseason. But look at Calgary this year, Lepore, for example. Like, is Blake Coleman an integral part of the Calgary Flames?
Yeah, good point.
You know, like, again, a good player, but holy shit, Johnny Gaudreau, Elias Lindholm, Matthew Tkachuk, Jacob Markstrom has been ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, those are their guys. And even Andrew Mangiapane, 30-goal scorer. We're not talking about Blake Coleman. You know, like, it just drives me nuts how people, for whatever reason, when they look back on some of these cups that these teams win, they think it's because of these, you know, it's all because of these secondary players and the depth that they brought to the team. At the end of the day, if the Leafs are going to go on a run, Matthews and Marner, like, if the Leafs win the cup, Matthews and Marner are both going to have like 30 points in the playoffs.
It's all going to come down to Kampf and Kasha.
Yeah.
Exactly. doing it for the Leafs.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, man.